Welcome everyone, welcome indeed to our Thinking Photography tutorial. Again, as always, in support of a specific workshop of ours, this one, our Thinking Photography workshop. And even though there's a lot of workshop resources, it's one of the workshops that we devote a lot of time to one-on-one consultations, recorded and catalogued, so that we can really focus in on your own interests and concerns. This is thinking about the methodology, so it's timely to think about skills and the future of the things we love and care about and where we position ourselves. Anyway, let me introduce those questions I've assembled for today. Noticing on two separate occasions from different sources, comments have come through. I've paraphrased them here, and I feel they're fascinatingly contradictory. But I intend to use these as benchmarks or ways of thinking about what it is we're doing. And in support of these other questions, beginning with a reoccurring topic, how to reinvent yourself and your work when you find yourself at a standstill or simply not where you wish you were. We all realize that feeling when it happens. But that begs another question, especially in our agentic AI age. How have we judged our success or our failure? In the past, historically, in the present, let alone what are we on the threshold of now? And a corollary that follows is how can we discuss the photographs we produce, let alone how we get to that point? And what is important, in particular, photography's documentary presumption that shaped the medium to such an extent that it's become fearful for many to question the belief that contemporary art can only justify its existence through its intellectual interpretation, especially now when generative AI is reshaping our relationship with what we consider real, and so on. So that's the setup for today. That's where we're looking to go, beginning as a continuation from the last couple of tutorials with one particular image. And let's hear from its creator. Reflections on how did you make it? What is it that's important to you about this image, memories or historical, this, that or the other? Is a way of getting us into discussing photographs. Now, if we took your comments and tried to put a wrapper around them and categorize them, what is the nature of the knowledge you have passed on? And then you can ask other interesting questions like, what else can I do with that? So this is in the north of Bali, these incredible waterfalls. You had to get a guide to take you to these areas. And then the mist came in. You were in this incredible environment and the light cleared and look at what you ended up seeing. But then you couldn't take more because the humidity, the condensation just goes crazy on our poor cameras. So for me, the wrapper is experience. This is a recounting of, a demonstration of, a witnessing of a really meaningful experience in another culture, in another place, in another time, in another environment, a long way from your home. So for me, the wrapper is experience. The question then is, as I said, what do we then do with this? How else might we talk about, which is a form of presentation or distribution, and images by their inherent ambiguity? It is the nature of pictures and the contested meanings, the multiplicity of outcomes we can attribute to or read into, from sheer joy and engagement and experience through to all the other things photography has been used on behalf of over all of this time, in the sense that great pictures seem to be endlessly intriguing. The more time we give them, the more they seem to give back. And this is why engaging with the history of pictures is so rewarding, to find those pictures that give back and give back to you. The question is, that's our engagement with, and that's our response to. So how do we then also expand and engage with our discussion of that very experience, that phenomena of endlessly intriguing and rewarding the time we spend with these pictures, and especially when the pictures are physical objects and where it's so much easier to move closer to or walk past and so forth. But the question then is, how can we also turn that response of ours into something else? And how else can we then discuss and talk about these things? On the one hand, it's surely more than enough just to engage with a beguiling picture and enjoy that engagement. and everything that it gives back to us, let alone everything we can take from it and put into our own image-making practice through emulation or just inspiration and outright techniques of execution and so on. But if we go to one of the workshop categories, photographing the natural world, could encompass travel photography, all sorts of documentary photography, climate activism and so on, to then historically and culturally and theoretically contextualize, support, encrust according to our interests and our needs. Now, these are presented throughout the workshop without fear or favour, because for some of us with a particular image, how I render the moment so that it represents my experience or my intent, political or historical or personal or otherwise, that can be an overwhelming consideration. To then be able to think of it as a document or think about it historically or consider its implications, interpretation and so on. But what do we do with this now? Above and beyond those magical, almost mystical experiences of beguiling pictures that enable us to spend so much time with them and get so much in return for our time spent with those pictures, the foundations they provide, we can then discuss our experiences, our feelings of not just making the image, but engaging with that image. And that can be further refined into this representation of things that can be seen. And what did we just do? By discussing how the photograph was made, describing what the photograph depicted, and thereby illustrated something that we didn't know about the picture that was valuable to him and his experience and the creation and making of things that can be seen. But on the other side of the lens, as we go on and on about, is the presentation of things that can't be seen. And this is where we start getting into this realm of thinking about photography, where we can even begin to question, why am I using photography to do this rather than words, rather than video, rather than painting or something else? And of course, photography is welded together by these two sides of the lens, but it's up to us to choose what to prioritize. And the question then is, prioritize on behalf of, and to what extent does that prioritizing help us understand how successful the picture is, or could be, or might have been as an artist, as a creator of pictures? And by what mechanisms do we judge our success or failure? And to what extent, through how we present, which includes discuss, not just exhibit or publish, how we present what we do, and the audience we choose to present it to. Just scattergun on social media or narrow cast in an art school, in a family gathering, in friends of photography encounters, and so on. Now, this distinction, process versus methodology, the steps we take to do something versus the principles, not just the hows, but also the whys. What am I doing? How am I doing it? And why am I doing it? And who am I doing it for? Because if we return to the very first question which prompted this whole discussion, this idea of what happens when suddenly, out of the blue, I have this feeling, but surely there's more. And I highlight this now because we're at this moment of technological determinism, generative AI. What's at stake is this idea of intellectual labor, not physical labor, but intellectual labor being replaced. So we're at a really interesting moment. And depending on who you talk to, not just in our university environment, but in our everyday engagements, a lot of people are really starting to worry. My illustrious career has just disappeared. So for a lot of people, this is really real. It's not just an intellectual problem, it's a practical issue. Because on the one hand, there's the form, and on the other hand, there's the content of what we're doing. And if we're talking about how do we judge our success, how do we value what we do and invest in, not just financially invest in, but with our time and our wherewithal, our emotions and so on. And what do we then choose? What were the four categories? Historical, cultural, the production strategies, and the theoretical that can reward me in all of these different ways. But how do we then value success in a way that then promulgates us having further success and circuitously feed back into our methodology, not just our production strategies? The problem is, and now we're talking personally from university art education through to our national institutions and so on, the world that Andre and I live in. The problem is that the world of contemporary art is largely justified through our intellectual scholarship. For many people, it's become somewhat fearful to question the belief that contemporary art must and can only justify itself through its intellectual interpretation, the frameworks through which the work is conceived of, seen, presented, where we have nothing to share and distribute or talk about unless we've demonstrated something. And we've got nothing to demonstrate unless we've created something. We then have to distribute it. We have to publish it. We have to put it back into a discourse about such things that are of interest to us and thereby judge our success or not to that area of inquiry that we are most concerned with at this moment, at this time. But have a look at this second comment from Peter Steinberger, the creator of OpenClaw. Tiny snippet out of a recent interview with Lex Friedman. So what's the right balance? What is your role in all of this? And I think that's a profound juxtaposition. And we don't need to go further than neural filters, where so many of the applications we work with, and adding AI tools where we click on a button and the button's command is remove all the stray hairs, remove the freckles, equalize the skin tones and so on. But that's okay because we're still producing the effects we want. I've got 10 images out of 400 images because my AI has decided based on its criteria, not my criteria, as to what's valuable or not. But we're not developing skills in that instance, are we? So how am I judging my success or failure? What is the criteria? It's certainly not about skill-based acquisition, is it? Can you see the contradiction? Because if the age we are well and truly in an agentic age, not just AI tools, but agents, and we're talking about the ethical, philosophical, aesthetic implications, let alone a loss of skills. The question then becomes, in terms of judging our success or failure, how valuable will things made by us rather than AI, how valuable will they be? And those who choose the judgment of their success or failure with financial return, therefore I need agentic AI to do the work for me as quickly as possible, blah, 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 blah. If that's your moniker, fine. That's what our AI tools are already doing for us. I don't need to develop more skills, but handmade means based on my skills. Can you see the contradiction? If what underlies all of this is the bespoke, is the handmade, the evidence is this is going to grow in importance. Then it's skills in all four areas that come to the fore. It's not just the traditional, historical, I can make these photographs. It's also understanding the theory and the cultural moment, let alone where we're coming from, let alone where we're going. It's about the skills we have and their development, moving into this rapidly accelerating avalanche of a future. Now it's about the actual form, the mechanism by which the picture comes into being, which has been decried in the world of contemporary art for a long time. You see the contradiction? It's a profound moment, perhaps a moment where we return to the phenomenology of, rather than the politicization of, one's engagement in the world of art and with pictures and their dissemination, which then also goes back to answering that very first question, how to go about continually reinventing ourselves, especially when we, ourselves, let alone our work, suddenly feels to be at a standstill, not going anywhere, or certainly not where we wish we actually were. And this seems to be a phenomena being accelerated in this age of engaging with increasingly agentic AI. So I leave it with the simple premise that there's all these ways we can engage with the photographs we take. That's thinking about photography, not just the making of the photographs. And it's up to us to choose what it is that satisfies us and fulfills those other categories of engagement with what we're doing. There's options, there's possibilities, and given our own ethical and political and historical and personal beliefs that constitute who we are, but also what we see and imagine in the pictures we engage with, it's what we do with that makes the real difference to ourselves. All right, I'll conclude with that observation, just reinforcing this form versus content debate, and perhaps the way we judge now, let alone in the not too distant future, if we're paying attention to what we see going on around us, is this idea that perhaps other aspects, not just the intellectual content, the rationale of why the work was made in the first place, that other things, skill-based and otherwise human-based, may also become of equal, if not increasingly important criteria by which we judge our success or failure. I'll leave it at that.